Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Check, check. All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the February edition of the McKinney Amateur Radio Club, official meeting, corporate meeting, I guess we'll call it, since we are a corporation. But for those of you who have not checked in, the self-check-in code is Golf Echo. So just look for that email that got sent to you about an hour and a half ago. Click on the self-check-in button or link and enter the code when it prompts you. Let them see you. So I've made the motion. Can I have a second? Let's go with Mike Flouchet. Okay, any discussion? Any testimonials? All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Very good. Bob, congratulations, and thank you for all you do for the club. We still expect you to pay for Tessa's membership, though. Okay, Treasurer's report. As of January 31st, starting balance was $24,022. Had revenue of $679, expenses of $246, which gives us an ending balance of $24,455. Treasury is healthy, and we continue to be a viable radio club. Yeah, that's a good point, because we do have a lot of new members. Yeah, for those that may not know, the club has organized our finances in I won't say a unique way, but in a specific way. We have what's called our general fund. The general fund makes up the bulk of our cash assets. We made a decision quite a number of years ago that the money we were spending to insure all of our equipment could better be spent by building up our own pool of cash to replace the equipment ourselves if something should happen. So we actually, every year, we transfer money into a separate account that is strictly for our self-insurance. That annual amount is $400, and over the years, I think, golly, you said we're up around 40. I think after we make this transfer in April, we'll be about $4,500 in there, which should be enough to cover breakage or weather damage, as long as it doesn't hit all of our repeater assets at once, which I think is pretty unlikely. We also have a fund of money that was set up and started through a donation from the estate of one of our silent key members, Walter Lemons, AE5IT. His estate donated $2,500 for with a designated to be used for youth. So we do have a youth fund that is part of our treasury. That youth fund is used to pay for things that we're going to talk. One of the things that we pay for every year, we're going to talk about in a few minutes, is the Dallas Regional Engineering and Science Fair. We sponsor an award for that, and we have an optional scholarship that we can give. All of that comes out of that youth fund. So yeah, it's not all just one great big bucket of money. We just report it that way in the meetings. Otherwise, it gets a little busy. Any questions about that? I can give it to Sid and he can answer. Oh, there we are. Yeah, the self-insurance as of right now is about $4,870. So we transfer $400 a year in there, so we'll be over $5,000 by the end of April. And then, you know, Bill, if you could come up and talk a little about the engineering and science fair. Sorry to steal a little of your thunder, but it's hard not to when we're talking about what we're doing with youth fund money.
For the last several years, or every year since, I believe, 2013, I'm not exactly sure on that, but I believe that's correct. And we've awarded a special award in the Dallas Regional Science and Engineering Fair. The special award is awarded to the recipient entry who best promotes the study or participation in the operation of communications equipment and/or knowledge or principles of radio technology. So really, it's not one of your category type awards. It goes to the person that we decide, well, our judges get together and decide if we find a project that is deserving of the award. And I should say we also have a scholarship that's also discretionary to the judges of $250 that we always hope to give out if it's something, but it really has to apply to ham radio in order to get that. The judging of that fair will be this Saturday, the 18th. So it is funded by the MARC Youth Fund. And actually this year, I think we have plenty of judges, but if anyone would like to judge in it, just show up for our board of directors meeting, which will be at the science fair. And you can certainly walk around with us and help us do the judging. Any questions? Nate?
Thanks a lot, Bill. Yeah, what time will we get down there, do you think, Bill? By about 8 o'clock, okay. So, okay, so for those online, you know, what Bill said was that we normally meet at the Whole Foods on Stacy Road in Allen at about 7 a.m. And we will kind of convoy ourselves down to Fair Park where the science fair is going to be held. And this never fails. The science fair is held on the same day as our board meetings. So we're going to hold the board meeting probably on the hood of a car in the parking lot at Fair Park this month. So no Zoom for the. Let's not, Sean. No Zoom for the board meeting this month. And if anybody feels really compelled to attend, meet us in the parking lot at Fair Park at 8 a.m. All right, turn it over to.
Bravo. Charlie. Delta. Echo. Foxtrot. Golf. Hotel. India. Juliet. Kilo. Lima. Mike. November. Oscar. Papa. Quebec. Romeo. Sierra. Tango. Uniform. Da-da-da. Victor. Da-da-da-da. Whiskey. Da-da-da. X-ray. Da-da-da-da. Yankee. Da-da-da-da. Zulu. Da-da-da-da. End of message. Da-da-da-da. Now you know the rhythm of the code. You met the challenge of the rhythm of the code.
Try and fit it in here. All right, so it's time for our presentation this evening. We have with us this evening Ken Mitchell. Ken, I hate to say this, I forget your call sign. KD2KW, so a kilowatt guy who actually has just very recently celebrated his 61st wedding anniversary. Yeah. Congratulations to you and your wife. Thank you so much for spending time with us. And Ken's going to talk to us about CW in a kilowatt kind of way. So hang on, let me give him the microphone.
Okay, well, thank you. Is it David? Yeah, Dave. So when Larry asked me to do this, I have made this presentation to several clubs, and he said that, he found me through the North Texas presentation group that Steve has put together. And I think he's doing a great job, and he's really put together a lot of things to help our clubs, and that's important for us. But tonight, what I want to do is I want to give you sort of an overview of learning Morse code. Now, I teach in the CW Academy class for CW Ops, the beginner class, and I also help in an intermediate class, and I'll tell you more about these in this because I believe a lot in the way you learn Morse code is really the emphasis on how you're going to enjoy the mode. If you learn to, think about it and see the picture, I play that video because I like the music, but I don't like the fact that it puts the dits and das up on the screen because I don't want you to do that. To learn Morse code. So we're going to go through this, and I'm going to kind of give you a picture, a little bit of history, and then a picture of how to go about learning Morse code. I think everyone can learn to do Morse code. The abilities are there in our minds, and if we work with our minds just like a musician, I forget your name over here, Ron and I were talking. He's a CW guy. And he and I were talking just now, and we kind of stopped abruptly there, but I've had several years of classes now, and I haven't found anybody. Well, I had one that, it all depends on your practice, and you're going to see that a lot in this presentation. Let's see, there we go. So a little bit of history. I never knew that Sam Morris had a fourth name. Finley, but who in the world would have named their child Breezy? Anyway, Samuel B. Morris, 1791 to 1872, he died at 81 years. He was a failure as an artist. Now, if you go to the internet, you can actually see some of his art. It's certainly different back then than it is now, but he tried to make a living in selling art, and you can see he became a failure in that, and he got interested in messaging. And so somewhere along the way, 1820, our society began to understand and learn about magnetism, and he began to put the two together to develop what he called the Morse code, and then the decoding equipment that you hear, the little tapping devices. But he really couldn't make a go of it. And in 1838, he partnered himself with Alfred Lewis Vail. Now, really, if you're a failure at art and you're having trouble making a business out of Morse code, which is totally new in that era, messaging, you know who really had the money in that partnership. Well, the two of them got together and they visited, I think, somewhere around 400 different newspapers. And this is significant because the way the Morse code is organized, it's organized so that the most used characters in the English language are the shortest. I don't know if you knew that or not, but you probably wondered, why is E one dit, right? That's why, because it's most often used. And if it is, then you can shorten up the time it takes by sending a message if you use all of the shorter characters. So we use that in the academy in learning, because if you repeat things more often, you're more likely to learn that. So these become the easy characters, and the harder ones are a little longer, and so forth. So now you know the secrets of learning Morse code, okay? And it's all about sound. So a little more history here. He died in 1870. So in 61, he was 70 years old or so, when the Western Union made the first continental telegraph tunnel line. So he got to see that, but he didn't get to see when radio was invented and they used the Morse code. So history continues to go on, and then teletype was invented, then telephones, and then ships moved from Morse code to satellite in '99. So let's understand a little bit more now. Why would we want to learn Morse code? Now, we're hams and we enjoy radio, and I have to tell you, since I got my license in 1957 as a novice, and then I got the general, so I had to learn the Morse code. Actually, the general I got was conditional, so that was before the VE. And there's a few people in here may not know that, but we had a process where hams participated in giving the license back then, and I got one of those. I was living in Madisonville, Texas, and the 75-mile zone, Madisonville's 90, so I ended up taking it from Shorty Lambert, who had a radio shop there, and and he gave me the test. I had to learn Morse code, but I didn't use it that much. But why do we learn Morse code? Well, it's efficient and it's very simple to use. That's why when you saw the invention of the radio, Morse code was used, because it was simple and able to demonstrate that. And so we use that now, and it also, most often, if there's any activity on the band, because of propagation, it's going to be CW. Well, maybe FT8 nowadays, but still, CW is going to get through when most of the other modes don't, even some of the digital modes. And that's because it does have some noise advantage. It's about 3 to 5 dB, I believe. It all depends on your ear. You can copy Morse code in the noise sometimes when you can't copy other things. So I want you to know there is a right way and a wrong way to learn Morse code. Now, the ARRL kind of propagated the wrong way to learn Morse code for many, many, many years, because they would put out a little chart. A is, and mark it out. And people would learn the Morse code by visualizing that chart and trying to tap it out. I'm going to tell you that's going to limit you to about 10 to 13 words a minute. And everybody that back then knew that you get to about 13 words a minute, and that's a limit. You hit the wall. Well, if you don't learn it that way, you learn it by learning sounds. The wall is not the same, and there's not there, okay? And so it really becomes fun. So that's the thing about thresholds and copying speed. Now there's a little thing about straight key, paddle key, and bug. We got this group that calls straight key CC, you know, and you operate straight key. Straight key is going to limit you. And I can also tell you, there's not many professional straight key operators. And by that I mean, I really hesitate to copy a person that has, you know, the proportions are off. The dits and das are not in proportion. You stay too long on the da maybe, and this also happens with a bug. If you don't get the bug just right, then you're going to have problems there as well. So we teach in the academy using paddles. Now you can use a single lever paddle or the double lever paddle. And I'll tell you a little bit about that later. So these are pictures, and I got the X's on these too, because if you're going to learn to send, you got to learn to not visualize it, but you're going to just sort of happens. I call it using your subconscious. You're subconsciously going to go, and when you're sending HIS for his, you're not going to think about it. It's just going to come out. And that's because the mind and the muscles are connected. So we use the keyer to help us do that. And that makes it a lot simpler to learn these muscle modes that you have. And so the keyer is one of the elements of things that you use with the paddles. Now, the available tools that we use in learning, we can use the keyer that's on our radio, putting the radio in the monitor, turning it off so it doesn't key into the RF, and you hear it in the speaker. So that's one way. These are devices that you can buy. The bottom one is a kit, or you can get CDs. You can learn it online. Still, there's some differences here in methodology. And I was sort of brought into the academy by Eric, NM5M. Some of you may know him. A very good Morse code operator. He's been doing that ever since he was 17, and that's his only mode. So anyway, he's my Elmer. Hello? Hello? It was a little bit loud. I did that. I wanted you to hear the sound and not do that. So let me see. I don't know if I can back up, or let's see if this will do it. No, it's not. So what you want to end up with is this. And the reason for that is, if you think that takes time up here, and the cycles in your mind is going to slow you down. Now, there are people that copy books and they listen to them. And I know one sitting over here can listen to a book and enjoy it, right? You don't do that at 13 words a minute. It takes forever. So you want to speed it up. You got to listen to the sound though. And you can't let your mind be off wandering, and you can't let your mind get in the way. It's got to be subconscious. So don't do the other, just let it happen. And that's what that symbol is to mean. I want to back up. I don't know. No. Is it previous? If I can get to it. You do it upside down. So you heard the word, the letter G. And I didn't want you to think about it like the other. Don't even think about the things you saw on the screen while I played the little movie, because I thought the music was good. So there are courses available. I'll put the CW Academy. I'm going to talk a little more about that tonight. Morse Ninja, the guy that did the Morse Ninja came out of the academy, actually took some of the courses with one of the guys I participate with, Mark Taylor in K5 GQ in Houston. He's a good friend of mine. When we lived down there, we worked together in the club. Just learning Morse code. These are the lists. There's some of actually Morse Ninjas on YouTube by ARO has CDs. But here's the thing. A lot of these don't have good methods. All they are tools. And how you use those tools is what actually gets you into enjoying Morse code. So you got to, how you go about learning it, it takes a lot of practice. And so what I try to do in the beginner class is give people the foundation for learning Morse code in such a way that is fun, and it is fun. 90-something% of my contacts now are Morse code, where it used to be the other way around. And I got just under 70,000 contacts in my log, so, okay. It's your effort, though. I can't do it for you. Your lovely can't do it for you. It's your effort, and it takes a lot of practice. And it's good to have somebody along with you, like with the CW Academy, because you have other people working along with you in these classes. And I'm going to explain those classes for you. So we teach what's called head copy. We don't want you to write it down. We want you to close your eyes while you are listening. So there's no distractions at all. And we do allow you to use the keyboard in some cases with some of the tools that we have, because it measures the amount of time it takes you to think between the time you hear this and you get it in on the keyboard. And this way you can measure your progress. It's important for you to know that you are making progress, you know, because if you know you're making progress, your mind begins to put it in the long-term memory, and it comes out quicker if you're enjoying it. So you need to, so if you get frustrated, I tell people, put it down, you know, go do something else, about 15 minutes at a setting, and then go do something else. Practice, practice, practice. None of this, right? I think, yeah, when I backed up, I kind of got out of sequence there on my mistake. Okay, so for the CW Academy, there are 4 main training levels. I told you about beginner and intermediate. There's one in between called fundamentals. Used to be called basic, but Eric basically designed that class. And they used to have just 3 levels, and Eric just saw that there was a need for something in between, and so it's now called fundamentals. There's a reason for the change, but it's not important to tonight. There's 3 sessions a year, one in January, one in May. It starts in January, one starts in May, one starts in September. They're 8 weeks long. You have an advisor. You don't have an instructor. It's not, the person's not a teacher. It's your job, and it's your desire. Set your own objectives, and the advisor is there if you've got questions. And that's how we run it, because if we tried to take over, you would not do the work. It's really important that you do the work. And we have from 4 to 5 students per class. I have a class limit of 6, but I usually end up with 3 or 4 in the class at the end, because life gets in the way. When you're talking about 8 weeks and you're talking about a daily practice of, in the beginner class, we say 45 minutes, things get in the way. And if you get behind in this class, you know, it's over. You've got to stay on, and you got to keep in step. But it is free. Now, some of these other classes, these other tools I told you about, they don't give you this kind of support. You go and you get the tool, and then they'll tell you in a word language how to go about it. But, you know, how do you know what kind of progress you're making? This is a way you find that out. And you have partners in doing that. So there's some good and the bad, and I just told you about some of the things I think are bad about some of the tools and how they support them. The good, I think, is close your eyes, listen to the rhythm. One of the students I have this year, this semester, this class, is a musician. And he has helped me immensely in my class, because he says, you know, I don't remember what instrument he plays, but he says, I did not learn to play the instrument as good as I do without going through the scales. Any musician in the room here knows what I mean about going through the daily scales. If you don't go through the daily sending practice, you don't go through the daily copy practice, you're not going to make it. It takes that kind of discipline. But when you get it, I got it when I was in 1957 for 5 words a minute. When I came to the class to meet Eric at one of the field days, and he said, "Let me test you and see." That was after we moved up here, which was about 4 years ago. He says, and I got in the class, it began to come back. And I'm sure a musician will tell you the same thing. If you learn to play an instrument and you put it down for a while, it'll come back. But it'll come back because you enjoyed it and you put it back here. Now, some of it's going to leak out. I tell people there's a hole back here, and if you don't practice, it's going to leak out. And that's true. You don't write things down. You do it not by sight, but by sound. And I tell people, close their eyes, put yourself into some kind of a space, but enjoy the music. And we practice. We start with a character speed from 20 to 25 words a minute. And we use Farnsworth. So the picture on the right over here is how we do this. This is in Morse Trainer we use as an app on the internet. And it's, so this is set for 30 words a minute character speed and 15 words per minute Farnsworth. So you're hearing the characters as if you were to put all 5 words together in Paris, it would be 30 words a minute in this case. But in Farnsworth, you send the character as if it's that, but you space out the characters so that you have time to register it and do the things you do slowly now that you're going to do faster if you do this right. So Farnsworth is the technique. And as I mentioned before, Morse was smart enough to understand why we got E as a dit and T as a da and so forth. And we do the same thing in training. And it's amazing. I tell people in my beginner class, about the 4th session in our beginner class, you're going to know whether you're going to make it or not. Why? Because those are the easy characters. And by the time you get there, you're using those in words as if you knew them already, and you do. It's amazing. Just 3 to 4 lessons. So most popular first, and I can't say it enough, practice, practice, practice. So what's needed to get into one of these classes? You need a paddle. I use double. A single lever is okay, I can use it, but why is it double? Keyers have something called A and B. I can't remember what I'm sorry? Yeah, ambionic A and B. And if you squeeze it, it makes, dis and das back and forth for you. We don't do that in the class. We want you to get the muscle memory proper for using the paddles as they are without the automation of the ambient A and B. So the keyer will sound, you need a keyer with a sounder or the internal keyer in the radio where you put it in monitor and use it. Most people do that. You need a computer with a video camera and a headset. And I can't stress enough a headset instead of the microphone in the computer, because the echoes in the room, we're using Zoom or we're using Jitsi and others. The echo in the room, when you start sending Morse code, it gets the echo from the first part of the character, and then it starts canceling it and you don't get the rest of the characters. So we got to have a headset to block that out. And I'm going to give you the practice word again. You can do those scales. All right, for a beginner, this is what you're going to do. The requirements are no experience. Or if you're under 10 words a minute and you think you know the code, by that I'm not trying to be disparaged. What I'm saying is, if you're using the code less than 10 words a minute, but you're on code and you enjoy Morse code and you want to do better, then this is the class for you. Most of the time, people that are running slow like that, it's because they're doing this thinking and picturing it, or right, and that sort of thing, and it gets in the way, and they can't do any more than that. You get 2 weekly video meetings with an advisor. That's me and beginners. There are several more. You do daily 45-minute practice for meaningful progress. Some people can't make that every day. Well, their progress is going to hurt. Now, I'm going to also tell you, you can over practice too. If you get tired or frustrated, then your mind's going to shut down, and we don't want that. So we want you to kind of sense that. I have people keep a log of what's going on with their practice. What is their difficult characters? We think of it, difficult characters as a negative. No, it's not. If you look for the characters that you're having trouble with and you practice them more, put them in the scales, what's going to happen? You're going to improve and you're going to get it right. So we look for that and then go and put it in our practice, and it works. We look for what we call instant character recognition, not thinking about it, close your eyes, enjoy the music, and it happens. And that's the subconscious, really. We want it to just be there. And it sounds that way about the 3rd or 4th class, like I said, for the E, A, N, and T. And when you get that and you see it and you feel it and experience it, then you want more. And that's really when it excites me when I have new people and they get there and then, and they're eager then. Head copy and you send Morse code. So when we finish the class, we do basic on-the-air QSOs at the end of 8 weeks. People that never knew Morse code. And they send basic QSOs. There's 3 in my class, and last night was lesson 12. And so I had them call CQ, and one of the other 2 answered them. And they carried on the first part of a basic QSO. One of those guys just got his license this year, latter part of last year. I'm telling you. So you learn the skills to get on the air, and then fundamentals is next. And so we're now looking to, do you want to progress? Okay, you want to get beyond where you are in the basic and the beginner. And so 6 words a minute, familiarity with the Morse codes. This is where Eric tested me and said, Ken, you could take my class. I was probably a little more than that at the time, but really weak. So you desire to increase your proficiency, and it's 8 weeks, 2 sessions per week, just like we did in beginner. And the tools, we introduce additional tools. This is where we start using things like Morse Runner and Rough Z, introduce you to those. And those have techniques of using the keyboard and sending the character, and you're putting key, that time is the measure of amount of time it takes you to act. And so we measure that, and we want you to reduce that time. And so that way you can tell your progress. If you do this over and over, do your scales, you're going to see that time reduce, and you can actually see it. And so we use those kinds of things. And then we want to increase our on-the-air skills, so we have people get on the air and work each other. And somewhere around 45 minutes to an hour practice in a course. We're still doing head copy, instant character recognition, but we're going to start adding words. And this is where people that listen to Morse code and listen to books, they know the sound of the word. They don't listen to like THE. They don't listen to the dits and das for THE. It comes out as the. And that's what you want. So now you're expanding your knowledge up here to not characters, but words and the sound of words. And so that's the practice you're going to do. And so you end up with somewhere around 15 to 20. I've seen some people come out of here at 20. But you focus on the air copy, and you're basically looking for look into where are your errors. Okay, so if you're having errors, having trouble with certain words, then you put those together. And here's what you do. You start with 2-character words, small words. And then you move from 2-character words to 2-character words. And you try to hold all that in your brain and then say the 2 words, not one and the other. And then you come back and you start adding 3-character words. Now, there's not many words that are 2-character words, but you mix them up and randomize them, and it works. And then when you come to the end of the intermediate, you're going to have structured 2- and 3-character words and the states. It's amazing. I don't know if you knew this or not, but if you look at the states and I think the Canadian provinces, there's every character in the alphabet in that list. So we use the states and the Canadian provinces as warm-up. So you sit down, and before you start working on expanding this or that in your brain, you sit down with the states at your comfortable speed, you get it right, now you're ready to go. You got all the characters. So that's sort of an interesting thing. And we still add additional QSO experience and begin to talk about contests and that sort of thing. If you realize the Morse runner is a contest tool rather than, but it's really a tool for practice. It's not a contest to us. It's a means of learning where you are and keeping your proficiency. So advanced, you're going to go from somewhere around 20 and above. And you're still using the same techniques. So that's why I believe building the foundation in the beginner, closing your eyes, thinking, not putting the words in your brain or anything like that, not writing it down, is important, because now you're ready to move on. And this is where you begin to start listening at sounds that are words together and that sort of thing. Still an 8-week, but you're still focusing on head copy. And you'll have 3- and 4-character words and phrases, and you'll recognize the words as sounds. We increase our participation in on-the-air activities. The CW Ops has a couple of events. One is called CWT on Wednesdays. And that event is for 1 hour, 3 times on Wednesday. They are 30 words and above. Okay. There's a slow event. It's not run by CW Ops, but they all participate together. It's called the K1 USN event. It's called the Slow Net, 20 words and lower. Most of the time I find people running 14, maybe even some 10 and 11 word a minute. And the exchange is very simple. I tell the guys in the students in the beginner class, go and listen, because person calling CQ, if you send CQ more than twice, there's something wrong. You shouldn't send CQ forever, then send your call sign once. That's not the important thing. The important thing is your call sign. So send CQ a couple of times, DE, and then your call sign a couple of times. And I tell the students, I said, now, if they're doing this right, if you don't get everything in the first time the call comes around, you go and listen to the second time. Now, it's okay to write down a call sign because you're going to use it again. But don't think about writing it down until you finish copying it. Copy the whole call sign and then write it down. That way you've got the information and you can use it again. So these events are to improve our skills, starting from the low end, and that's Friday afternoon at 2 o'clock and Sunday evening at 6, our time. And then Mondays is intermediate class. And that's basically from 20 to 25 words a minute. And they are the same time scale as for the CWT on Wednesdays. So these are help us improve our skills. And then if you want, you can become a CW Ops member. So the CW Academy has given us an opportunity to do a self-assessment. If you're interested, let me see, this should work. If you're interested in, and you know what, I don't think it is going to show up because I only showed a portion of my screen. But so if you're interested in going, just go to cwops.org and the Academy, pull down, and there's a place you can do your own self-assessment. Helps you understand what class you should be in. And then there's a registration page. And also the curriculum. You can actually go to their page and see what we have in our classes. You can actually do it yourself. But I'm going to share with you that it's really a lot more fun when you have 2 or 3 other people that are working with you in the same pace you are, and y'all get to share about where I am, and you know, where, and each help each other out. So, but you can go see what to expect. And then the Morse Code World, morsecode.world International Trainer, that's the tool that we use to teach from. You go there and it has all of the curriculum out and paced for you. So all you have to do is, you know, just go there and do your practice. So that's about it. I've got this little video that I played earlier. I don't think I'm going to worry about doing that at this point. Are there any questions about this that maybe are interests that I might have stirred and you want to find out more? Yes.
I think it's a dumb question, but I don't know the answer. So when you're hearing the letters, I know you said you're going to recognize like D and hear that. Like you're saying, you know, the cow jumped over the moon. How do you know where the spaces are?
Have you what?
How do you know where there's a space between the words? Or do you just hear the sound?
Okay, so part of the definition of the code itself is the spacing. The DIT is the basic fundamental element of that. The die is like 3 times that in length, right? And then the space between characters is, I think, 2 DITs, if I'm not badly mistaken. And then a word is like 3 DITs. Okay, so when you send it, you don't want to send the words all together because then people misunderstood that cow didn't jump over the moon, you know. So I think maybe that answers your question. Yeah, the 25 words a minute is basically, or the 10 words a minute is basically using the word Paris as the characters. And if you send that 5 times in a minute, then it's 5 words a minute. Okay? All right, anybody else? Okay, I think that's it. Back to you, Dave.
Right. Here. Oh yeah, we're all tangled up. Okay, our typical reminders. Remember, we have the MARC Information Net every Sunday night at 8 p.m. on the 2-meter repeater. So please make sure you check in. We also have the Simplex Net every Monday night on 146.54, plus or minus, depending on if somebody else is already there when we show up. And every Saturday morning, there's a breakfast at Denny's. We generally meet up right around 7 a.m., shoot the breeze, have coffee. Waitress comes and takes orders at 7:30 or thereabouts. So if you get there after 7:30, your food may be later than everyone else's, but it's usually a good time. We get a good crowd, you know, runs anywhere from about 12 to 25 people. It's we can take over a whole side of the restaurant pretty easily. MARC Board of Directors meeting, we had mentioned that this month it's going to be a little bit different because of the science fair. So we are going to be meeting at 8 a.m., but it'll be in the parking lot at Fair Park. So might be difficult for you to come attend, but it's probably going to be an abbreviated agenda anyway, just because we need to do the judging for the for the special award and the scholarship. Does anybody have any new business to bring to the club? All right, it's mighty quiet. Can I have a motion to adjourn? Yeah, please don't forget yellow bucket for tips. Please, matter of fact, I'll chip in right now or I'll forget. They do a great job here. They don't charge us for this room. That is a rarity in this day and age. So let's be sure we treat the wait staff here well. All right, can I have a motion to adjourn? Kiri Calder, move to adjourn. Can I have a second? Ron Ferris, second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? You can stay. We'll see y'all later. Thanks a lot.